Everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And some breaking news on the back of yesterday's video, where we talked about the fact that World Rugby had meetings this week to discuss a new global rugby calendar and what the new global rugby calendar could look at. There have now been a statement released by both Six Nations and SANZAAR, who have announced that they are looking to launch a brand new tournament in 2026 that will take place in July and in November international rugby windows, which will kind of replace the kind of tours and the sort of Autumn Nations series that we currently have at the moment. And it's getting quite a lot of controversy about it. A lot of people are unhappy about the concept, and we're going to explain exactly why people are unhappy and sort of what the feelings are towards this tournament. And so please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so what is going to happen? So the Six Nations, so obviously those the six countries there: Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England, France, and Italy, as well as SANZAAR, Argentina, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, have issued a joint statement which has explained their ambitious plans to launch a new tournament in 2026 in the existing July international rugby windows. All of the Six Nations and SANZAAR teams will compete for they'll be joined by two invitational unions. So there will be 10 teams and then an additional two additional invitational teams, taking it up to 12. Apparently, Six Nations and SANZAAR will own and operate this, what they're describing as an elite competition, with World Rugby creating a newly formed second-tier competition to facilitate promotion and relegation matches. A statement read, the Six Nations Rugby and SANZAAR are working in partnership alongside global rugby stakeholders to bring to life a new international rugby competition that will be played in the existing July and November test windows. The creation of the new competition has been a collective process from the sport, including World Rugby Union's key leagues, competitions, and crucially, the international rugby players. Set to begin in 2026, the new elite competition will feature all the Six Nations Rugby and SANZAAR teams, with two spaces reserved for invitational unions to join the Southern Hemisphere group. A transparent selection process will be managed by SANZAAR, supported by World Rugby and the international rugby players, to determine these two invitational unions. One would imagine you're looking at, your Georgias, your Japans, for example, maybe Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, maybe another South American side, like Chile or Uruguay, for example, maybe the States. And then it's owned and operated by Six Nations Rugby and SANZAAR. The elite competition will take place in alternating years outside of the British and Irish Lions Tours and Rugby World Cup. Involved at every stage of developing the new competition has been the international rugby players. This connection has been key in supporting the wider conversations around the club and international calendar taking place in parallel, and ensuring player welfare has remained a fundamental priority in all decision making. They then said to strengthen the development of pathway for emerging nations, World Rugby will create a second-tier competition that will feature teams from Europe and the rest of the world, with Six Nations Rugby and SANZAAR actively involved in cementing the link between the two divisions. It says that establishing the two competitions will pave the way for promotion relegation matches, contributing towards a valuable pathway for teams, and will support the ambition to sustain and grow the global game. Yeah, we're going to have a bit of issues here with this. The introduction of new elite competition is a testament to the strong ambition from all parties, motivated by the living context and a stronger narrative around the July and November windows. That I don't think is a bad idea. That can genuinely excite players and bring fans to the game. The impact this will have on the game will be to drive its growth and long-term sustainability. This runs alongside the work being done to add greater clarity and balance to the club and international calendar, a process the Six Nations Rugby and SANZAAR remain committed to helping deliver. Here's the problem, is that an elite competition is promoting an elitist environment. And if you're within the Six Nations and within the top four SANZAAR nations, you're smiling. You're sitting there saying, fantastic. So that means that we're going to be sitting there touring and playing against all these different, major nations, the top 10 teams in the world all the time. But what does it mean for all the other sides? And I think that's where the issue is. We've seen a Georgian side, for example, that's beaten Wales, beat Italy, and they, for example, now would not play against any of these sides unless they were to get promoted into it, for like almost a 4-year cycle. And it's a bit frustrating where we were about to have a World Cup to demonstrate just how rugby has been played in so many different countries. We're no longer going to have those countries having an opportunity to play against the bigger nations. Your Samoas, your Tongas, your Georgias. Romania, for example, is coming through. Portugal, qualifying for the World Cup. Spain, Uruguay, Chile in South America. Your Namibias, for example. And Yes, maybe formalizing a genuine second-tier competition might foster the growth of maybe smaller unions, maybe like your Brazils, for example, or your, I suppose, Spain to a certain degree, maybe your Germany's for those sort of smaller nations playing. How is a side like Georgia, for example, ever going to, get better and play against teams in the World Cup and be competitive if they're not playing these sides between their sort of 4-year World Cup cycles? As I said, we've seen Georgia beat Wales and Italy. Those alternation series have always got opportunities. I mean, like last year, Fiji played against Ireland. That would no longer happen within this new system. And that's a big problem. It's a huge problem. And they're sitting there saying, this has been done for the growth of rugby. I don't think that really is the case. These tours often, we used to have two team matches, two test matches against. I mean, for example, we've had, tours where we had 2 games against France and a game against Fiji, for example. We've seen your New Zealand, for example, in a British and Irish Lions year. All of a sudden, you could be playing against Fiji, you could be playing a weekend Scottish side and stuff like that. Maybe it's better to be playing against a Georgia, for a 3-day test series. So it removes all that possibility. So, yeah, it's quite apprehensive, to be honest, because I think that whilst, obviously it's going to, as a top 10 nation, you could, like, you sorted, now that all your tours, all your alterations games are going to be against top tier opposition. So you're always going to be tested, but it doesn't really give an opportunity for smaller nations to ever really sort of get involved. And, I think that's frustrating. So, let me know what you think of the concept. Look, I think the concept of having more jeopardy, I think, is quite cool. At the end of the day, the alternation series, are kind of just one sort of test matches. So I think that concept is pretty cool in itself. So to sort of add a bit more jeopardy and a bit more importance to these games. But I just do think that this has completely isolated the tier 2 nations, and I don't think this is going to foster a lot of growth with them. And that's the problem, because we want more nations playing rugby. We want a much bigger competitive space. We don't want rugby to play against 10 teams. We want rugby to play against 30 teams, 40 teams. We want situations like the FIFA World Cup where, Italy won the Euros and then didn't qualify for the World Cup because there are that many good teams out there. That's where we want rugby to get to. And I don't think that this is going to help that, which is a problem. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.